Today's video, we're going to talk about how to get your deadbeat customers / clients, depending on which one you have, to pay their bills. A lot of this comes down to psychological games. Of course, the reason why you're not getting paid is because your customer or client thinks they can not pay you or rip you off. If you're going to get paid, you have to make them think that they're not going to get away. Simply put, yes, some people don't actually have the money or whatnot, but for the most part, that's not the case, because if they didn't have the money, they would work out some terms with you. Let me pay you over the next 3 months, 6 months, and you could actually say, okay, I'll bill your card every week, XYZ amount, over the next 6 months, we'll work something out. But that's not the reality. And in fact, if you want to know, you just go to the person that's not paying you right now and ask them to do that, and if they say no, well, you know what you're dealing with now. You're getting an asshole who thinks they're going to rip you off, which is no different than them going into a store and shoplifting. They don't necessarily see it that way. And for you guys that are not there in person in front of them, it's like, you know, in their mind, it's like you don't exist. If you can only communicate through them through the phone, it's easy to ignore you. They think that they don't have a problem, basically. But what I'm going to give you here is some key tips here to scare and play that psychological game with your customer / client, non-payer, client, or customer, to get them scared enough to pay. Granted, your best course of action is to lick your wounds and say the damage is done, and then change your policies moving forward. Like I had to do our own advertising firm, and we don't necessarily have problems with clients anymore that don't pay. Occasionally it'll happen, but it's less than 10% of what it used to be, because we figured out a reasonable way to get paid. And if you're scared, by the way, that you're going to scare clients away, of course there's certain amount of hurdles you can put a customer or client through before they really get aggravated and won't want to do business with you. A few extra things, extra policies that you ask new customers or clients to do before you start, for the most part, won't affect your business. I know this because I do it myself. And it will get 90% of these people that don't want to pay you completely out of the way. If they are actually saying that, no, I don't want to pay a deposit, or no, I don't want to give you my credit card before we start, you know, granted, you're not even going to charge them, you're just asking for a card, and they say no, you already know you've saved yourself a headache, because that person, a legitimate customers who have already gotten a quote from you, who already did their research, that's not going to stop them. That one thing is not going to stop them. So anyway, I'm going to tell you how to just bulletproof your process as a part of how to collect, and harden up your process as well. So I'll get right into the content. So I made this video to give you options to inspire your deadbeat customers or clients not to pay, despite this channel being about how to make money with advertising. I figured I'd give back to my subscribers here, because I know this is a big topic for a lot of you, not to mention, obviously, we're dealing with business owners, people that run businesses on this channel. So we're trying to obviously get awareness of our channel as well, which is why I cover some of these broader topics. And so after this video, if you're trying to make millions of dollars with your business through getting more clients, you can focus on what you're losing, but it's easier just to focus on making more money. And my channel does exactly that for you, because I give you the strategies that work, running Google ads, Facebook ads, and so forth, coming from somebody who already does this for clients nonstop, and we guarantee results for our clients as well. So with that said, to get people to pay, there's definitely some strategies there. I can tell you firsthand that no matter what you're selling, the easiest way to not get ripped off is not to pull the, I'm going to go after you card after you've already gotten ripped off. You're in a losing position at that point. Best thing to do is just harden up your policies and don't take shit from anybody. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what to do, which will virtually get rid of 95% of the people that you've had a problem with now and in the past. You don't have any more problems like that anymore. A lot of people don't, by the way, you're probably saying, well, I've heard people say I could do this or that, and I'm afraid that people are going to want to do business with me. Again, I was like you. I thought the same thing when I started. When I started guaranteed PPC roughly 10 years ago, I did the same thing. Clients are not going to want to deal with me. And by the way, it sort of is true, at least particularly in the beginning. When someone's giving you a chance that they shouldn't be giving you because you have no reputation, no past clients, none of that, it is quite a lot more true than if you're established already. But certainly when you're established, you got no reasons why nobody shouldn't trust you. There's no reason why people shouldn't, again, once they already have invested that time to vet you, to not do what you want them to do at the last step here. They're already thinking, well, shit, I might as well just do this because I'm going to have to go through the whole fucking process all over again with somebody else, checking them out, checking the reviews, on and on and on. I don't want to do that. So therefore, if they're legitimate and they actually do plan on paying you, this isn't going to stop them. So anyway, what do you do to harden up your process so you don't get ripped off anymore? Ask for a credit card or bank details before starting and make a test charge. More so, a card, debit card specifically. We do this at our own firm. So even if you're doing a landscaping job for $500, instead of just asking them to pay at the end, because a lot of you guys don't want to take payment up front because you don't know how much the bill is going to be. Well, at least ask for the payment, what they plan on paying you with up front. That way when it's done and they don't want to pay you, you could just ding their card anyway. So you don't have to ask them to get paid. You just charge them. That will solve so many problems. Of course, a lot of people will play a game where they'll give you a shitty card with no, like a secondary card with no money on it to try to rip you off sometimes. But that's not what, to tell you the truth, a lot of people that rip you off, their intention wasn't even to rip you off in the first place. They just thought they were going to have money when they went to pay you. And then now that when things have changed from the time that they signed or wanted to start with you to the time that you're asking them for money, that they just decide to pay you not then. Well, if you got the card up front, it's a little, obviously hard to back out up front. At least if you got a debit card itself, which I'll talk more about that. And then furthermore, what you do to make sure you got a real card is you do a test charge. Some clients would do this to us where they would get like a prepaid debit card, give us the card. When you try to bill them, there's no money on it or whatnot. So I don't do this, but if you wanted to and want to protect yourself a little further, if you were to think the job should be around $500, tell them that you're going to run a test charge for $500 to make sure you got $500 in your account. You'll run it, you'll immediately refund it, but this is your requirement to make sure you get paid at the end of the job. Again, they're not going to bitch about this. The reason why I don't do it is because for what we get paid is tens of thousands of dollars ultimately, in the long run anyway. And we can't do that kind of thing up front. But if I was charging $500 at a time, that's what I would do if I'm billing at the end and not just, of course I would try to pre-bill them if I can. But if I can't, I'm at least going to try to do a test charge and make sure they got that much in their account. So I know I'm not dealing with somebody who plans on hopefully having the money to pay me by time it's time to pay. I don't want anybody like that. It's too risky. We do like a $1 test charge to make sure it's a working card. They didn't just make up a credit card number. That you want to do at minimum. But if you want an extra protection, bill a higher amount and make sure they didn't give you just like a card that is linked to an account with no money in it or a prepaid debit card, that kind of thing. Even though, again, most people aren't planning to rip you off initially. Some are, but that's not most of them. Most of them are just decide not to pay at the last minute because something else came up and took all their money. So you do that. You, by the way, put that as a part of the proposal. You give them the proposal. I don't care if you're even doing, plan on re-roofing a house. You give them a proposal. At the end of the proposal, it has the credit card, ask for the credit card or what payment source on that. So in order to sign, they also got to give their card up front. That's how you get the card from them. And then as a part of that so-called proposal, which again, people that do roofing and stuff, they don't do proposals. But if you do a proposal saying we're going to take off this, just show the process that you're going to go through briefly. You can ask for the credit card and then have a credit card authorization agreement on it. And the reason why this is important, because if somebody later on says, hey, I didn't authorize this, and you have no credit card authorization agreement, you probably know this right now, but if you don't, then you're ass out your money. Unless you have a card agreement, unless you're charging that card in person, they can come back and say, I didn't authorize it, and they get all their money back. So you're open to those types of scams. So you have that authorization agreement and asking for the card on the proposal. You do the test charge on the payment sources, then you start, then you know when the job's done, you're just going to be able to bill the card, and they're not going to be able to just say, I didn't authorize it, because everything was in clear writing on that proposal, what you were going to do, how much you were going to charge, and the payment source you were going to charge. So they can't wiggle out of it. Furthermore, no credit cards. Credit cards I hate because if somebody, again, needs money, hard up for money, if they've paid us for 3 months, what they can do, technically, even though this isn't like a usual thing, but technically, they could call a credit card company up and say, I didn't authorize this, and get all their 3 months worth of fees back. Because it's a credit card, they can do a chargeback. Debit cards, they can't do a chargeback. Once that money's taken out of their account, unless, technically there's a way you could say it was fraud, but it's damn hard. So tell them, if you want to have extra protection, no credit cards, debit cards only, and you can verify that by looking at the card itself. Have them send a picture of the card that they're, that you're getting on that proposal or whatnot, which you could do that through like a service like Right Signature, having your proposal with your credit card authorization agreement, and then one of the requests on that agreement is to take a picture of the front of your card to know you're dealing with a debit card, not a credit card, per se. Or just ask him, is it a debit card? Is it a credit card? And then, because they're not going to know why you're asking them that, and they'll be honest with you probably. And then you just say, sorry, we don't accept credit cards, and then do that. And then, of course, there's ACH billing, which is like billing directly from a checking account. They can easily get this reversed too, as well, as we've found. Again, it doesn't come up, hardly ever. But if you want to really harden your systems on billing and payment, no ACH either. Even though the credit card processing fees aren't there with ACH, you only pay 1% versus like the usual 3% with credit card or debit card processing. They can reverse that charge, and you're open to that kind of scam as well. Respectively, by the way, I wrote it down here, but if you're worried about, say you're a guy who normally takes checks, you're saying, well, I don't want to pay 3% credit card processing fees. I just want to take my check, so I don't have to pay that 3%. There's a new kind of credit card processing, debit card processing, merchant accounts that you can get where it's 0 fees. The customer pays. And as long as you put on that proposal I told you about that they had to pay the 3% charge for using a debit card, the customer pays it. And you just basically, as long as you stated on that agreement, you gave them, you're clear. So later on, if they say, I don't like the 3%, sorry, it was on the agreement, and so you have to pay that either. So literally, there's no reason why you don't have to pay any extra to start doing this system, if you will. Anyway, beyond that, you can ask for payment in stages for anything over $1,000. I would highly recommend that. So if you're charging over $1,000, us included, I'm going to ask for the payment in stages. I'm not going to let them rack up multi-$1,000 bills before paying. So if it's going to be a $2,000 thing, I want $1,000 at least up front and then $1,000 later. Technically, shouldn't be giving this information out on this video, but I actually I violate my own rule there. If it's more than $1,000, like if it's like $6,000, we'll do it in 3 parts. But if you're smaller, you can't take that kind of a hit. Break it up into 2-3 parts. Put on that proposal when you're going to be billing. When this is done, we'll be billing this. When this is done, we'll be billing this. And then obviously you have the card on file, so when you get to certain stages, you just automatically ding their card. There's no, hey, will you please make your payment? Because ultimately, what that all does, even if you don't have an asshole customer or client you're dealing with, it slows up the damn job or delivery of whatever you're doing. Then you got to ask them. Then you got to chase them down. Don't get in the business of chasing people down anymore. Just bill them when the certain things are done that you said you were going to do. And break it up into 2 or 3 payments like that. And it's better to get a payment up front so that you know that you got a serious person, but you may not necessarily have to do it. But if it's over $1,000, you probably want to break it up. Anyway, beyond that, the last tip I could give you is if you're going to charge over $3,000 and you have a lot of overhead to where, parts and the materials is like 70% of the cost of the job, you can't have somebody not pay. You're going to be really screwed in those type of businesses. Well, just in general, if you're already what you're offering is over $3,000, I would highly recommend doing a credit check on the person on your proposal agreement that you give them, and check for any liens on their house. If you're particularly like for contractors or home service companies, so that you know you're at least dealing with up front. And if it's a deadbeat, if they don't have any, if they have all kinds of issues with their credit and they have liens on their houses already, once you get time to actually threaten them to pay you, it's already too late. The normal methods of threatening them ain't gonna do shit. So you may not need to go ahead and do that on the smaller jobs, because the cost of running a credit check is gonna be $30. If I'm gonna expect somebody to pay me 10 grand, I'm not gonna do that without a credit check for a job where I've got to put up money up front for materials and all that stuff. So you can get a credit check, and then you can do a check to see if there's liens on their house. So if you need to make a lien on their house, you're not making sure you're not doing it where there's 5 other liens on the house already. Even though they still have to pay you too when they sell the house, it's much better to just know you've got somebody who isn't fucking everybody over. Because there's certain, where you get fucked over, by the way, is where you get somebody who fucks everybody over. There's people who certainly don't want to pay, but they also don't pay anybody unless you chase them down and you really threaten them. And that's just how they operate. Well, you don't get a person like that if you check their credit up front. And so on bigger jobs, because it costs money to do these checks, you actually invest 1% or 0.5% of what you're going to get paid in making sure you got the right person that does pay their bills. Doing all this stuff completely, as I told you here, most of the way or all the way, you're almost never going to have a problem anymore getting paid. So you can lick your wounds, like I said, and just move forward. Now, for the people that want to go after the people now that they have a problem with, mentioned I would go through those things. First thing you can do is you could threaten a collection agency on the person and that will ruin their credit. There's credit collection agencies who work on no fees, and if they don't collect anything, they don't charge. But they'll take like 50% of what they collect. But 50% obviously is better than nothing. Well, the more important thing that they can do, what you can't do, is they can report to the credit bureaus. You have to be able to, though, get their social security number or their business EIN number in order for them to do that, by the way. So on your proposal, going back to that, that's another reason why that is great that you do that, because you can ask for their social up front, so that when it comes time to go after them, you know that they got your social, and you say, I'm going to report you to the credit bureau, and we're going to make sure you get reported because I have your social, and here it is, so it seems more real. It seems like you have more teeth. This is a psychological game. They're weighing whether or not you have the power to do something to them. So, and that battle is won up front by having the right data from them up front. But with that, though, what we found is it's just threatening somebody who already didn't want to pay with ruining their credit, even if they have good credit. It's not all that effective because they already kind of knew that you could affect their credit. But what is effective is when you say, okay, we're going to ruin your credit because we're working with a credit agency that is going to report to Experian, Equifax, name the names of the credit agencies so it sounds more serious. If you don't pay us within the next 10 days. If you pay us in the next 10 days, we'll give you 60% off of what you owe us. But after 10 days, it's too late. We're going to send it to the credit agency. So you can decide, and then obviously email that to them and make sure that you have a tracking system so you can see if they open your email, and make sure that they see that so they can decide, okay, well, do I want to risk ruining my credit over XYZ amount of dollars? Because obviously once it goes to the credit bureau, they're going to want me to pay more than 40%. I could just get out of that right now for paying 40%. A lot of them will do it. Not all, but you go that route. If that doesn't work, what you can also do is send them a demand letter from a lawyer, which I know what you're saying. Oh, that sounds really expensive, Corey. It is. If you go with the traditional law firm, they're going to charge you like $500 to send a demand letter to somebody that owes you money. So for smaller jobs, especially, that's not going to work. However, You can literally go to Fiverr.com nowadays and type in legal demand letter and search for that, and there's a whole bunch of lawyers who will do it for as little as $25. And granted, yes, people get more scared when they get a demand letter from a big law firm versus some lawyer. But what these people do is they set up a law firm as well. And a lot of people will be faked out by that. If they get a letter saying, you owe XYZ company money, this much money, and we're going to sue you, a lot of people aren't going to go and Google what this law firm is to really check out the size of this law firm. You're just going to get a response from the client. That only took $25. And then they'll just mail that directly to the customer wherever they are. And of course, going back to your proposal again, if you have their address on file right up front, you know exactly where to send that demand letter. So you can do that if you're not a local company. Local being that if you're local, you can do, like small claims. If you also are under $5,000 or $7,000, whatever small claim court limit is in your state. But if you are local, just do a small claims. It's not that hard. You can go to your local courthouse and in 20 minutes you can file a small claim on somebody for up to $5,000. And I know what people say about these small claims. Well, you're going to have to go to court. It's going to take all this time and then maybe you can't collect. This is a psychological game. I've done small claims before for unrelated stuff. And if you're going after somebody with money, for the most part, you'd be surprised how effective it is for them to get a demand letter in the mail saying that they have to respond to this, that they'll just come directly to you afterward and say, hey, how can we work this out? Somebody that was total asshole before, non-responsive, once they get that demand letter from the courthouse, they're complete 180. Now the ball's back into your court. So simply all it took was a 20-minute and a $50 filing fee. Now they're playing nice again. So I agree. Going to court, going through all this shit to get your money back, if it's $500, it's not worth it. But just the fact that it's probably a 50% chance that they'll pay you once you just file it, it's worth filing it. By the way, if it is a local business as well, and you do win that thing, for what I've never done it, but from what I understand, you could go into a person's office and just start with the sheriff and just come in and start grabbing equipment or seizing trucks or equipment. Once you have a judgment against that person, you have the right to claim any assets that they have. Furthermore, if it's a company that you can't physically, tangibly get their stuff because you're too far away and don't want to travel to them, what you can also do, I had, so it's a genius way to do this, but what you do is you fake like you're a customer and you say, I want to buy all this shit from you. Make them think you're a whale, and then say, okay, but I'm out, I can't, I need to be able to pay by wire. What's your banking details? Once you ask for the banking details, you can take the banking details and get a garnishment from their bank account. Because if without the bank details, you can't get a garnishment. But through that method, you can get their bank details. Then once you've got your judgment against them, you could just go and immediately suck the money out of their account. So something else to think about. And then the final move, the final dick move you can pull here is threaten an IRS letter. So what this is you specifically tell them that there's a specific code in the IRS code where if you're not doing cash-based accounting, it's like a different type of accounting. I forgot exactly how they word that. But if you, essentially what happens is if you count the income as the income, when you initially invoice, not when you get paid, and you're using that kind of accounting, IRS has set up something so that if somebody doesn't pay, you can actually then send something to the IRS, which then has the IRS go after them for income on the non-paid income. So in other words, instead of IRS coming to you and asking for an income on that debt, since it never was paid, now the person who hasn't paid the debt is the one on the hook for the income. So in other words, it's also similar to like credit cards. If you rack up a credit card and don't pay it, the IRS could come after you and say that the debt that you didn't pay is income, and you have to pay income tax on the non-paid debt, because the non-paid debt, once it's discharged, is now assumed income as per the IRS. So you could literally say, hey, according to IRS code 1286, unpaid debts that we have to write off are going to be counted as income, and the IRS is going to be contacting you saying the $10,000 you haven't paid is income, and they're going to want you to pay an income tax on the debt that you didn't pay. I don't want to do that. Please contact me before we write this debt off and contact the IRS, because we're forced to contact the IRS if this debt is going to be written off. But if you settle the debt with us, we weren't going to be able to contact the IRS anymore. But if you simply do nothing, you're going to get a letter from the IRS, and if everybody knows, obviously, if you get a letter from the IRS saying you have to pay something, you're damn well paying it. And if this is particularly effective on bigger debts, because now they're talking about having to pay several $1,000s in income on a debt that they didn't pay, if that makes sense. This is particularly effective when you state the exact IRS code that makes this true, so that they believe what you're saying, link to it on the IRS website, and say that you may be, certainly required to pay income on this debt, which should be several $1,000s. But, we don't want to do that. And if you just contact us and are willing to settle with us for 40% of what you owe, we won't send anything to the IRS. But it's not if we're going to send it to the IRS. With the accounting system we use, we have to send it to the IRS. And technically it's true if you're using that type of accounting. And even if you're not, screw this person who's basically trying to kick you in the ass anyway and not pay you. It's all fair game at that point, if you ask me. So that's another way that you can go. Now, if you can't find the IRS code where this is actually true, this is a real thing, and you can quote to them, let me know. I'll get you pointed in the right direction there. But that's another way you can get people to pay that don't want to pay. Of course, people are going to be super pissed when you pull this one out of your hat. And you're definitely not going to get that person to come back again to you by any means, or refer, or maybe even badmouth you. What I'm going to end with here is a lot of this stuff where you're threatening them, this and that. There's always a risk of them badmouthing you, either to people they know or online, so on and so forth. So you always got to carefully weigh whether or not you want to do certain things, and it may not be worth it, which is why the proper way to go about doing this is to do stuff up front, because you're never going to get bad mouth or have a bad review or whatever if you just do the proper shit you were supposed to do in the first place, and not giving everybody way too much trust that puts you in position to either not get paid or worry about having them bad mouth you. So anyway, with that said, that's my secrets on how to get people to pay past bills. If you liked my video, like I said, I have a ton of content on this channel about how to make money with online advertising on Google, on Facebook. And with that, we guarantee our clients results. So the stuff I use to guarantee our clients results before we get paid anything, I give to you on this channel. You can make millions of dollars with your online advertising for your business just doing the stuff I talk about on this channel, because it's all working stuff. So you should subscribe. And furthermore, if you like this channel, you should not only subscribe, but I also have a lot of material on my site on guaranteeppc.com, where you can also see my written material on how to make money with online advertising, actual techniques that work, as well as you can see my work on entrepreneur.com as I write a column there. Beyond that, if you are looking for an ad manager that can get you results with your ads with no work involved, this is exactly what I do at my firm and I specialize in. Contact me at guaranteeppc.com. I'll get you a free assessment, look over your stuff, and tell you how much sales results I can get for your company running online ads for your company. And again, we not only guarantee our work, but we don't charge fees until we get you results, sales results on your account. We don't work with just any client, but if you think you got something that sells well and just needs the proper online ads running for it, I'd love to be able to potentially work with you and get you an estimate of how much results we can get for your brand by contacting us. So reach out and at least let's have a chance to look at your stuff. Beyond that as well, we've worked in 100 plus markets before. If we've worked in your market already, you don't want to pay an ad agency to help you or someone like myself to help you. You can use the templated results we've got for your market already and just simply copy and paste that into your own advertising accounts and get those same results for yourself. We sell those templates to clients who want the, copy paste results, and we can tell you what results you can get in that market before you even pay us anything. But we charge a one-time fee for ad templates, landing page templates, that kind of thing, to get you results in a market that we've already gotten results in, that we spent years getting results in those markets, to give you the gold-plated version of what works in that market. So anyways, something else that a lot of people have been interested in, and therefore I keep talking about it on this channel. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'd appreciate it if you would leave with giving it a like if you like the material I gave you here, and I'll see you on the next one hopefully as well. See you later.